In last week's Parshas Yisroi, we have the Aseres Adibris, the Luchos Rishonos. One of the Aseres Adibris is Shabbos. The pasuk says Zachar Yom HaShabbos Lakachay, and we spoke in last week's Shiur that this pasuk comes to tell us that there's a mitzvah Hasei D'Oraisa every single Shabbos of Kiddush, to make Kiddush. The Rishonim speak about it from what part of the pasuk, but there's a mitzvah say to make Kiddush. In last week's Shiur, as we explained, we're not going to go into the halachas of Kiddush, that's a whole Siman Reishai and Aleph, but rather to go into the understanding of Kiddush. We make Kiddush every single Shabbos, whether if you make the Kiddush or you listen to Kiddush, you're being yotzeh. It's shemei ka'oin, and you're making it, so it's good to know, to understand what's going on in Kiddush. Last week we spoke about the first part of the bracha, the bigger part of the bracha. Shabbos is Zeichel L'Maaseh Bereishis. We say it in the pasuk of Kiddush, Asher Kiddishanu B'Ava V'Ratzayin. Zikaron L'Maaseh Bereishis, that's in the Luchos Rishonos in last week's parsha. And then we also went in to explain the next words of the Kiddush, Tchil Mikra HaKodesh Zeichel Yetzias Mitzrayim, as in Parshas V'Eschanan, the Luchos Shnios, that says that Shabbos, Shmira Shabbos is Zeichel L'Yetzias Mitzrayim, and we explained how. We went through the Rishonim Achronim. Today we'll continue on with some more ha'oris, understanding the words of Kiddush. As it was in last week's title, which we didn't get to, understanding what we do say and understanding what we don't say. What don't we say? Yom Tov, when we start Kiddush, Yom Tov we start Asher Bochar Banu Mikolam V'Remon Mikoloshem. So the shaila is, question number one, why don't we say it Shabbos also? The Shabbos Kiddush starts Asher Kiddishanu Mitzayis V'Ratzavanu V'Shabbos Kotsha B'Ava V'Ratzayin. Why don't we say Asher Bochar Banu, that the Eibishter chose us? V'oid, the second question is, if you take a look, actually it might be mentioned in Kiddush, but later on in Kiddush, after Zeichel L'Maaseh Bereishis, Zeichel Yetzias Mitzrayim, it's in parentheses, Kivonu v'charta v'sana kidashti mikol am. Kivonu v'charta is like Ata b'chartanu, Asher Bochar Banu, it's later in Kiddush. So question number one, the Rishonim, Davud Raham asks, why don't we say it? Question number two, even there are those that do say it, it's in parentheses, some do say it, some don't say it. You'll pay attention tonight to see if you do or you don't say it. But even if you say it, why do you say it later on in Kiddush? Why not right away in the beginning? B'doimit to Yom Tov, Asher Bochar Banu Mikolam. Shabbos also, you should say it right in the beginning. So for the first question, why we don't say it, many do not say it, why don't we say it? So Davud Raham answers, the Beis Yosef brings it, as well as the Taz. The Taz's yard site was this Monday. The Taz, they bring it, b'shem other Rishonim as well, also the Birchas Chaim, that being that the mitzvah of Shabbos we got b'morah, before Matan Torah. By Matan Torah is when we were chosen. Ata b'chartanu. When did the Eibishter choose us? By Matan Torah. Shabbos we got before Matan Torah b'morah. Being that we got it earlier, so it's not applicable to say on Shabbos, not in Kiddush, and we don't say in davening also. Yom Tov we say Ata b'chartanu. Shabbos we do not. Of course, we are chosen Ata b'chartanu, but legabi Shabbos, we got the mitzvah of Shabbos b'morah before Ata b'chartanu. So that's why Zok Davud Raham, amongst other Rishonim, the Birchas Chaim, that we do not say it on Shabbos because we got the mitzvah of Shabbos before the Ata b'chartanu, before Kabbalas HaTorah. Masha again Yom Tov that we do say it, even though the story of Yom Tov, L'mashal Pesach and Shvi Shal Pesach happened before, But when did we get the tzivui, the mitzvah of Yom Tov? We got it by Matan Torah. At the time that we got the mitzvahs of Yom Tov, to keep Yom Tov, by Matan Torah already was Ata B'chartanu. Therefore says Davud Raham, that's why we say it Yom Tov and we did not say it Shabbos. So far, do we say it or do we not say it? Zok the Rishonim, the Beis of the Taz, they bring why we do not say it, because it's not applicable on Shabbos. The Aruch HaShulchan brings this pirush from the Rishonim why we do not say it, and he asks multiple questions. Number one, Pesach, amongst the other Yom Tovim, but Pesach we say Ata B'chartanu, Sayin Davening and Sayin Kiddush. Pesach, we were nitztava for the Yom Tov of Pesach, for the mitzvahs of Pesach already in Mitzrayim before Matan Torah. So just like Shabbos, you're telling me you don't say Ata B'chartanu because it was B'morah before Matan Torah, so too you should say the same thing, L'gabe Pesach also. Pesach, we had the mitzvahs of Pesach, Leil Pesach, before we went out of Mitzrayim. And still we say Ata B'chartanu.
Pesach Kodesh is different than Pesach Mitzrayim in a lot of halachas.
So you're saying when we say Ata B'chartanu, it's really...
Hashem was Bachar bottom before. That's why we're saying. That's how we got out of Egypt in the first place.
So the Rebbe says that's the next shaila. When were we chosen? Asher Bachar Banu. So the pashtus in the Rishonim, the Avud Raham, we were chosen by Matan Torah. That's the pashtus. The Aruch HaShulchan asks, in the pasuk in Parshas Va'era, way before already, the pasuk says, "V'lakachti eschem li la'am." We were already chosen earlier. Oh, very good. Gavaldik. But just a second. First, let's see what the Aruch HaShulchan asks. Moedik the Rishonim taka taicha like that. But frek the Aruch HaShulchan, you're telling me that we don't say it kivanu v'charta because we got Shabbos and Morah and we were only chosen by Matan Torah. Frek the Aruch HaShulchan, I have a pasuk in Parshas Va'era that we were already chosen earlier, before. In Parshas Va'era we were still in Mitzrayim. So the emes is taka very good, like what you're bringing up. What is the pasuk speaking about? The Rishonim, the Even Ezra. The Even Ezra's yard site is this Shabbos. The Even Ezra and the Sepunu touch the pasuk that the Eibush is saying that I'm gonna take you to Har Sinai, give you the Torah, and with that I'm gonna choose you for a nation. So be'etzem on this kasha really, from the pasuk, it's not so clear taka that we were already chosen in Mitzrayim. The Eibush was saying then that we're going to be chosen by Matan Torah. So that's what Avod Ram says. For Shabbos you don't say Ata B'chartanu because we weren't yet nifchar till later. V'oit frek the Aruch HaShulchan. If anything, Shabbos is more applicable to say Ata B'chartanu even more than Yom Tov. Why? And in a different place, he goes on more by Riches in the concept, and it's also known in the Maral and the Gvuras Hashem. The Maral also has this concept that be'etzem Shabbos really would be applicable for the Goyim as well also. Why? The Eibishter created the world in 6 days. The seventh day, the Rabbeinu Shalom rested. So everyone alike, the Goyim in the world also are part of Brias HaOlam, and part of the Metzias of Brias HaOlam that the Eibishter rested on the seventh day. So just like we rest the seventh day, as we spoke about last week's Shiur, to remember that the Rabbeinu Shalom rested, be'etzem would be shaykh for the Goyim also. Menucha, be'etzem would be shaykh. However, like Chazal say, Matana Tova Yesh Beis Genazai and Shabbos, and the Eibishter gave it to us. So Zok the Aruch HaShulchan, Ein Lecha Gadol Mizeh, that the Eibishter chose us by giving us Shabbos. It's true it was B'morah, and it was before Matan Torah, but L'maisa, the Eibishter picked us to give us Shabbos. That itself was Ata B'chartanu, more than Yom Tov. This that we got Yom Tov, we went out of Mitzrayim. We went through the Yam Suf. So Memela, Memelu, we keep Yom Tov. That's the tzivia of Yom Tov. But Shabbos is way more that there's way more that we were chosen. The Etzem, the Goyim also could have gotten Shabbos. They could have. So Ibazoi, Frekta Orcha Shulchan, Avada with Shabbos is Kivana Vacharta. So Mela Makayach, all these kashis, the Orcha Shulchan says, you do say it. You say it. You say it, Kivana Vacharta, Vaisana Kedashti, you say it. So again, we saw that Raham says you do not say it because it's not applicable to Shabbos. The Aruch HaShulchan says it's absolutely applicable to Shabbos. The Kivana V'charta. However, we began the Shiur with a second question as well. If you do say it, why is it later on in Kiddush? Yom Tov, right away you start. Right away you started. So why? If you do say it, why wouldn't you say it right away Shabbos as well also? Zok Aruch HaShulchan, Shabbos, these were to start Kiddush as like really what we said last week. The Kiddush of Shabbos is V'rotz Avonu v'Shabbos Kotsheba V'rotz in Chilon is a Kar Lamaisa Bereshis. There is what to say in Kiddush of Shabbos. We're not going to go into Yom Tov right now. We're focusing on the mitzvah of Kiddush of Shabbos. Yom Tov there isn't, so that's why you go right away. But Dr. Aruch HaShulchan, the reason why it's not at the beginning is not because it's Agav, it's because we have what to speak about Shabbos itself, but of course we put it into Kiddush. Then says the Aruch HaShulchan, not only we put it in, we stick it in somewhere, it actually comes in very much later in Kiddush. After we said that we have Shabbos, Zeichel Amaisa Bereshis. So then the kasha is, so why do we have it more than the Goyim? The Teretz is Kivana V'charta. So we don't say it right away because we want to really focus on Kiddush. Kiddush is, we have Shabbos, Zeichel Amaisa Bereshis, Zeichel Etius Mitzrayim. But however, why did we get it? The Teretz is Kivana V'charta, Vasana Kidashta. We explained Kivana V'charta, the Eibush that chose us and gave us Shabbos. What's V'oisanu Kidashta Mikol Ha'amim? So the Aruch HaShulchan explains that the Etzem, like he says clearly, the Etzem, the Goyim also could have gotten Shabbos. Narvos the Eibush that gave it to us. But what exactly the Eibush to give us in Shabbos? Avada Yom Menucha, but Yom Menucha Kedusha. When the Eibush that gave us Shabbos, it's not just a day that you rest, that you don't do Malacha. There's also the Chelek, on top of that, the Chelek of Kedusha Shabbos. Yom Menucha Kedusha. So therefore, Zokt the Aruch HaShulchan, like the Pasuk says, in Kisisa Kari Hashem Mekadishchem, the Eibush was Mekadesh Klal Yisrael. So Memela Shabbos Yom Kivana V'charta V'esana Kidashta. The Eibush was Mekadesh us, and Memela, therefore, the Eibush chose us, and the Eibush was Mekadesh us. So therefore, we don't just have Shabbos, Stam Menucha Shabbos. We have that also. Yom Menucha U'Kedusha. We have Kedusha Shabbos as well. So what did we say so far? Davud Raham says you don't say it. The Aruch HaShulchan says you say it, but it's places to say it later. Agav leha'ara, l'chayr lefi the Aruch HaShulchan, you should say it before Tchilah Makra Kodesh Zeichel Etzias Mitzrayim. What did we just say? This that we got Shabbos is Zeichel Amaisa Bereshis, that's Kivana V'charta. In other words, really the Goyim also could have gotten Shabbos because they were also part of Maisa Bereshis. However, Kivana V'charta V'sana Kedashta. L'chayra, it should come before Tchilah Makra Kodesh Zeichel Etzias Mitzrayim. As we said before, Zeichel Etzias Mitzrayim is a whole separate story. We spoke about it last week in the Shiur, but Al Kaponim, the whole Kivana V'charta is connected to the Shabbos, to the Chelek of Zikaron Lamaisa Bereshis. Over there we should have said Kivana V'charta V'sana Kedashta Mikol Ha'amim, and then continue Tchilah Makra Kodesh. Okay, but Lamaisa, the Novominsker Rebbe Zatzal, they put out different contrasim. He says, along the lines of the Aruch HaShulchan, he doesn't bring the Aruch HaShulchan, but along the lines, and he says, just like what the Aruch HaShulchan says, Kivanu v'chart is going, that we were chosen lagabi Shabbos. So he says the Kivanu v'chart is that we were chosen lagabi, that the Eibusha took us out of Mitzrayim. That was also Ata b'chartanu. We say it on Pesach. The Eibusha Zichar chose us to take us out of Mitzrayim and to do all the nisim. So along the lines, like what the Aruch HaShulchan says, the Aruch HaShulchan says we were chosen lagabi Shabbos. And the way the Novominsker Rebbe learns, it's taka going on Kivanu v'chart v'sana Kiddashta on the Zeichel Yetzias Mitzrayim. Okay, when you make Kiddush tonight, Be'ez Hashem, whether if you don't say it, so you know, you'll realize you don't say it, or if you're saying it, you'll see, we understand why we say it, where we say it. So Ad Kan, we more or less covered the ikar of the bracha. Avada, every word has klar, pirush amilis, and much more depth, but at least a little bit of the tzura. I want to focus now for a little bit on a different chelik. We actually spoke last week also with the Hagafa and bracha, smucha l'chavrata, so why do you start with a baruch, why do you end with a baruch? But there's another chelik of Kiddush. Das heißt, these Birchas Kiddush, Hagafen, and Asher Kiddishanu, the Birchas Kiddush. But before that, there's another chelik, Zok the Tur. The Tur says that we start Kiddush with Vayichul HaShamayim V'Haaretz. Why? Why do we start Vayichul? Says the Tur, for the people that didn't daven, we said it already in davening by Shemoneh Esrei, so why do you say it again? The Teretz says we say it again for the people that didn't say the davening, for the children, for the people that didn't make it to davening. That's why we say it by Kiddush. But why taka do we say it? Whether by davening or by Kiddush for the people that didn't say it by davening, why taka do we say Vayichulu? So this the Torah says in the Chelik HaTfilah, Al Pi the Gemara. The Gemara on Shabbos, so the Gemara the Omer of Amnuna call him a spalul be'erev Shabbos va'omer Vayichulu. Ma'ila olav ha'kasav ki l'nasa shutav ha'kadosh baruch hu b'maisa bereishis. If somebody says Vayichulu, it's not just saying Vayichulu. When you say Vayichulu, by saying Vayichulu, a person becomes a shutav and maisa bereishis, creating the world together, kaviyachol with the Rabbeinu Shalom. Gemara. So that's why you say Vayichulu. Frek the Oyer Chaim HaKadosh in Parshas Bereishis. First of all, it's very interesting. The world was created close to 6,000 years ago. It's created, it's here. So if we keep Shabbos tonight, we're going to say Vayichulu, and by saying Vayichulu and Asa Shutav Makadosh Baruch Hu, the Eibishter made the world already a long time ago. So what does it mean by saying tonight Vayichulu? Whether you say it by davening or we say it by Kiddush, for the people that didn't say it by davening, Nasa Shutav, the world's here. What does it mean Nasa Shutav? V'oid, it's taka moira de gezach to say Vayichulu, but at kedei kach that you're Nasa Shutav Makadosh Baruch Hu in the creation of the world. And the third question asked Aruch Chaim, where does the Gemara know this from? The taka that if somebody says Vayichul is not Nasa Shutav Makadosh Baruch Hu. So he says Yesoid Gadol V'Noira, that when the Eibishter created the world, in the beginning b'Maisa Bereishis, the Eibishter created the world for 6 days, not for 6,000 years, for 6 days. Ki sheishes yamim, for 6 days, not ki bisheishes yamim, that it took 6 days. The Eibishter created the world for 6 days. So Dr. Chaim HaKadosh came Shabbos, and Shabbos gave a koyach for the world to exist for another 6 days. And Memela, every week that we keep Shabbos, the Shabbos gives the koyach for another 6 days of existence. Mameli says, Avada Nasa Shutav. What was the question? That the world was created almost 6,000 years ago, but when it was created, the Eibishter made the world for 6 days. And then comes Shabbos. However, the Koyach of Shabbos gives it another 6 days. So Avada, if you say Vayechulu, which is being made on Ma'aseh Bereishis, on the Eibishter created the world and rested, and Mamela we're doing the same thing, Zeichel Ma'aseh Bereishis, like we explained last week. So Mamela we're Nasa Shutav. And that's why it's taka so chamer, because if you don't keep Shabbos, so then that's the end of the world. So it's Nasa Shutav, and that's how the Gemara knew that it's Nasa Shutav.
What happened before Mount Sinai?
That's a good question.
I just took one of options. I just not an answer.
It's a good question. What happened to Matan Torah if it was that no one kept it? The others kept the Torah, but let's say Tol Avram Avinu. Yeah, it's a good shaila.
But I should first Rashi. Yom HaShishi. Like Matan Torah, maybe Yom HaShishi means also Shabbos.
So the Pasha was Al Tanai, Al Kiyim, Tol Matan Torah. Good shaila, good answer. I hear.
It was renewed by Shabbos as his own, even nobody kept it. From Matan Torah and further, you have to keep it to be able to renew it.
So shtickle like the says Tol Matan Torah, that was part of it. That the Mashal, the same thing the Mashal Lagabi the Torah. It's clear that if there wouldn't be Torah, the whole world is in the sky with Torah. And even though we got the Torah only by Matan Torah, so that's the chayes. It was built on the koyach. Yeah, there's a lot to speak about it. The Kriyas Yamsuf. Many say that the Chiddush of Kriyas Yamsuf was before the koyach of the Torah. So how taka did it happen? Al Shem that we were going to get the Torah. So such a side also that before the Torah was Al Shem Shabbos when we were going to get Shabbos B'morah. In the Nusach of Yom HaShishi Vayechulu HaShamayim, so the Torah says you say Vayechulu like we saw. The Gemara says Nasa Shutav Makadosh Baruch Hu. The Ramah brings from the Maril that you actually start. Before Vayechulu, you start from Yom HaShishi. Why do you start from Yom HaShishi? To have the Eibishter's name in Kiddush, Yom HaShishi Vayechulu HaShamayim is Yud Kei Vav Kei. Frektach Sam Sefer in Shuvas, the beginning of our Chaim, 2 questions. Question number 1, these are clouds, the Gemara in Brachas, we learned today in the morning call, the Gemara says, any pasuk that Moshe Rabbeinu did not split, we're not allowed to split. You can't break a pasuk. Let's say by laning, you can make a isafis, but you can't stop in the middle of a pasuk. So over here, how could you stop Yom HaShishi? Start. It's true, we want to have Yom HaShishi, which is the chelik of the pasuk before Vayechul HaShemayim Va'aretz. Yom HaShishi is a half a pasuk. So how could you start by Yom HaShishi? Kasha number 1, and number 2. What kind of mashmoyis, what does it mean, Yom HaShishi Vayechul HaShamayim? Actually, Vayechul HaShamayim V'aretz is the 7th day. What does it mean, Yom HaShishi Vayechul HaShamayim? So even if we figure out an answer that it's not a problem of Kol Pasuk LaPeska Moshe, you're not allowed to split it, but what does it mean, Yom HaShishi on the 6th day, Vayechul HaShamayim V'aretz? Vayechul HaShamayim V'aretz is by Yom HaShvi. So for the second question, the Chassam Sofer says that's taka why. We go back earlier, Vayi Erev Vayi Voiker Yom HaShishi. Because if not, what does it mean Yom HaShishi? Vayi Erev Vayi Voiker. Vayi Erev Vayi Voiker Yom HaShishi. And then Vayechul HaShamayim. So fragt the Chassam Sofer. Agav and that's the minig by, I would say by a lot, maybe by all, by most, to say Vayerev Vayivoker low. It's brought in the Siddur Yavitz, because really it doesn't come at the Kiddush Bechlal. Yom HaShishi comes in because the Yud Kei Vav Kei. Vayerev Vayivoker, we just say that it should fit, we should be able to say the words Yom HaShishi, so therefore he says you say Balachash low. It's brought over, we have in the art scroll said the Balachash Vayerev Vayivoker. Because really, we only say it that it should lead and it should have a mashmoyis of what we're saying Yom HaShishi. But Frektach Sam Sefer, wait a second. We start Vayerev Vayivoker, even though it doesn't have to do with Kiddush, but the reason we say it is because if not, what does Yom HaShishi mean? So if that's so being the case, let's say the whole pasuk. To take care of the first problem, called pasuk by pasuk Moshe. Say the whole pasuk. Say it low, but say the whole pasuk. So for that, the Chaim Sofer says that we do not want to say it coming to Shabbos Kodesh and say Vayar Kim Es Kol Asher Asa V'Yidei Toiv Moed. Rashi brings it's a Medrash, a Chazal, Toiv Moed is Maves, so we don't want to mention Toiv Moed, so maybe we don't want to say it. So we can't say it, you don't have that Eitzah. But what's Taka the Teretz? What'd say? Why is Toiv Moed Zu Amavis? It's a Medrash. Just if you're asking one of the Pshatim, a person in this world is to constantly work, is Toiv. Toiv Moed, to be perfect, that's Mavis. First of all, because if a person's perfect already, he's a Malach, that's the Ed, he's not in this world, B'chlal. And B'chlal, if a person thinks he has to be perfect, Toiv Moed Zu Amavis. Avad, a person has to always work to be Toiv. That's Steiner, that's gefragt, that's but Toiv Moed, Chazal say, Toiv Moed Zu Amavis. So maybe sagt the Chaim Sofer, we don't want to mention in Kiddush, V'hinei Toiv Moed. But what's Taka Lagabi, the Chelek, that how could you split up the pasuk? So we start Vayi'er Vayivoke Yom HaShishi, which is not a full pasuk. So the Chaim Sofer brings the Magen Giborim, the Rav Pa'alim, others. I mean, he doesn't bring the Rav Pa'alim later, the Beis Chai, but others bring this teretz. And to start the Chiddush in this din that you're not allowed to split a pasuk. A pasuk doesn't only mean how we have pasuk Aleph, pasuk Beis. If you have a snachta in the pasuk, that also is considered legabe splitting the pasuk. You could. So before Vayerev, v'hinei toiv ma'od, these are snachta. So b'meila you could start Vayerev Vayivoke Yom HaShishi. One more nekuda, Sakti Yavitz, that Hayois, Avadid is a din that you can't split a pasuk, but you also can't combine two psukim. So being that Vayerev Vayivoke Yom HaShishi is one pasuk, and Vayichul HaShamayim is another pasuk, Sakti Yavitz, a person should be mafsik between Yom HaShishi and Vayichul HaShamayim. Mafsik doesn't mean to take a 5-minute break. It just means to make a hefsik between one pasuk and the next pasuk. We take a start Kiddush at least loud, Yom HaShishi Vayichul HaShamayim, but take a break just to understand. Even a hefsik, Yom HaShishi is part of the pasuk before Vayerev Vayivoke Yom HaShishi, and then afterwards starts another pasuk Vayichul HaShamayim V'aretz. A good Chodesh and a wonderful Shabbos.